Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. We're here today with Harry, but before we start, I'd just like to thank one more time our sponsors, Pure Prep for hosting us, and to Buffalo Whey Protein as well. Thank you so much for the support. Harry, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure, man. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very excited to dive into the story of Harry. For anyone that's obviously seen you on Instagram, you are a little bit of an influencer. One of the most recognizable faces, not only on the soil, but probably in all of Phuket. We know that a massive part of your audience is in the UK, but I think now, with how quickly you've grown, I think all over the world, really. But before we get to that, tell us, Phuket is your home now?
It is.
Why is this place so amazing?
I mean, for so many different reasons, I think. I actually never wanted to come here, like, brutally honestly. I booked my flights here kind of by accident.
No way.
I met a mutual friend of ours in Dubai. We went out for what we'll call just a couple of beers. And I woke up the next morning, and I'm not the sort of guy that does this. And I, barring the notifications from my credit card for the hideous amounts of money we'd spent that I didn't have, I had also joined a gym in Thailand and booked a flight. And I thought, God, you know what, and Phuket of all places as well, right? So renowned for being a big party island. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? And I got here and I stepped out onto the street on my first night with absolutely no idea what to expect. And within 30 seconds of walking down this street, and at sort of dusk, it is absolutely magical. I just knew, I mean, look, the hairs on my arms have gone up. I just knew, I knew that this was going to be the place where I wanted to spend as much time as possible. So my 2 weeks became 3 months on a tourist visa and done the extension and everything. And now, because I work online, I have the specific visa for here, which allows me to live here for 5 years now.
So I guess a loose night in Dubai led to a random trip to Thailand. And now here we are. And
I just think the sense of community on this street, and I think it's really important for people to understand that this street is not representative of the whole of Thailand or of Phuket. It's very westernized. It's obviously a fitness hub. And that for me is obviously hugely appealing because of the work I do and the lifestyle that I live. But you can't, the scenery here is next level. We wake up every morning just under the statue of the big Buddha. We have the most incredible beaches, the most wonderful people. I mean, the Thai people are so friendly here, and my Lord, do they have to put up with a lot of nonsense from tourists coming here in the high season. But it has just felt like home from the moment I got here, and I had been running around the world for months and months and months, going to war zones and up mountains and all this. And I came here thinking I wouldn't like it, and it turned out to be my favorite place of all. And I'm absolutely still besotted with it.
Yeah. Is it the fitness which is your favorite part about this place?
I think for the soy, yes, obviously. That's what it is based on.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that there is so much available here, but you're surrounded by people who get it. And for those who work in the fitness industry, this is such an incredible place to come. It's why so many people do end up moving here. But I think it's more than that. There is a real aspirational part of this street as well. So it goes through phases through the year. We've just finished the high season, which I will say is probably not the aspirational phase. Mm-hmm. It's a bit party, club scene. There's a lot of festivals in Phuket. But what I think is actually, as you head towards the low season, the rainy season, you end up with the people who are here to really invest time and effort in themselves to change physically, mentally, emotionally. You get a lot of people out here who have gone through quite a lot, and actually are just looking for a break. And that break tends to become a bit more permanent. I think everybody here, it's that classic thing, I came for 2 weeks and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's also a huge veterans community on the island.
There is, yeah.
I got involved with really early on. They asked me to if I wanted to be part of it. Actually, next week, well, as of filming, next week we've got an Australian naval ship coming, and I've been invited to go in and go to a reception on that with the veterans group.
Beautiful.
And we have a thing called the crisis response team, so it's where we can be asked by the Thai government or local governments to go and help in if there's an emergency. So the recent floods was a real example of that, and why we needed to get qualified. So I think there's just a sense of real old school sense of community here.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, look, every place has its negatives. I just think that here, actually, the negatives have come from us lot, the foreigners. And you know, I really say it, you know, some of the behaviour you see on this island is actually really poor. And it's from tourists, often like young tourists coming here for a party week. But I also have to respect the fact that when you live here, you view that life differently. They are in a party island doing that. Everything they're doing is offered to them. Those clubs, those bars, everything else that goes on here.
Yeah. It can be very exciting, and it can be overwhelming as well. Like, I can imagine if I'd come here in my sort of early 20s, I just would have been like a kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, I've been dead in a week. Like, it's. I lived in Marbella instead, and you know that was no joke either.
Yeah.
And that was when I was 20 years old. And if you go up to somewhere like Patong, it actually has beautiful beach, like loads of activities, but it's known for the sort of red light district of the walking street and Bangalore Road and all that. And I don't know if you've been to the Bangalore Road. If not, I'm going to take you. But it is the most insanely overstimulating place in the world. People talk about the Koh Sam Road, right, in Bangkok, and the Bangalore Road is way more overstimulating than that.
I had a night out there last year. We won't talk about it though. I think it's best we leave that for another episode.
Well, you had Luke on.
We did.
And you know, Luke's original prosthetic leg actually hangs in a bar.
I think that sums up the place quite nicely.
Yeah,
actually,
and British veterans are allowed to drink out of it.
Yeah,
I'll send you a photo. You can overlay it.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, but Harry, look, you've alluded to quite a few things there. Like, you've obviously had quite a dynamic, exciting life. You referred a little bit to your military background, which obviously we really want to get into. You lived in Marbella, which I didn't know about you, which is pretty cool. But for me, I want to focus first, because we spoke about the fitness here specifically, but I want to speak about your relationship with fitness and sport in general. Is it something that's always been a big part of your life?
So I think yes and no, and I think it's a very classic example for people who have got into the fitness industry or coaches. It's probably people who didn't have a healthy relationship with food or with exercise or something growing up, and actually now it has become something that people very much say, "Oh, you're obsessed with it." I know that I'm a lot better with it now, but as a teenager, sure, I went to boarding school my whole life, right? You are three-line whip out there playing rugby no matter what, right? Doesn't matter if the pitches are a foot underwater, you are in that rugby gear, like playing all day, or hockey or whatever it might be. Was I particularly good at it? No, nothing special.
I appreciate the honesty, yeah.
Well, I think it's important to be honest, right? And also, it would be super easy to find out. I think yours and my rugby careers are very different. But I enjoyed it, and I've always enjoyed being part of a team. That, for me, is a huge thing. I work really well in a team, which probably is surprising, given that actually most things I do now, I do alone. But I try to build teams around me whenever I go anywhere. Food, definitely had a phase where I had an unhealthy relationship with food as a youngster. It didn't help. My dad's business was sort of heavily involved in like chocolate and sweets and stuff as well. So it just, when you're a teenager, you don't really think about that so often, especially pre-Instagram and all that kind of stuff, because I am old. But it definitely led to now being more conscious of it. And my sister still takes the piss about it. But my sister, on the other hand, was an exceptionally good athlete when she was younger. You know, very much in the running to go and train for London 2012 and things like that. Luckily, the tables have turned. She'll hate me for saying this. But she now lives a very corporate lifestyle, whereas for me, the fitness came through university and then the military. Obviously, huge amounts of fitness in the military. You do it in a way that they call it structured. It's actually, I think, relatively... To those of us who do it a lot now, you wouldn't consider military PT to be that difficult. And then from that, I realized that there was just this really, really deep connection between how I felt mentally, emotionally, alongside physically. But so without trying to preempt it too much, when I was going through a really, really difficult phase, like post-Afghanistan, PTSD set in, I didn't really understand what was happening in my own head. My answer was, go and do as much exercise as you can. Because if you redline for an hour, morning and evening, and it was CrossFit, I would just go and I would hit it and I would make myself the most brutal workouts and go and do those. But for an hour, you have nothing else to think about other than my lungs hurt, my legs hurt. You don't think about anything. You get that extreme rush of endorphins afterwards. But when your brain isn't working properly, the rest of your time is actually really deeply unhappy. And so you see it as this trigger to make you happy. And it just gets worse and worse. And this is one thing that I didn't find out until I went and started doing therapy, was that there are a lot of military people who end up doing this, and a lot of people in general, but it is actually considered a form of self-harm.
Wow.
Which it made so much sense when they said it. But, you know, it was my first group holiday after leaving the military, so suddenly I was free and I was getting ready and I wanted to be shredded, and we were going to Greece, and 8 guys, 8 girls, all in one villa together, all single. You know, it was posh Love Island in Mykonos. Everyone needed to be shredded.
Sounds awful.
Oh mate, it was honestly, it was outrageous. And but I just think now, when I look back to what is unhealthy training, it was the build up to that.
Okay.
I was just all over the place. Looked epic, but felt miserable.
Yeah, I guess the reality of it is not what it's cracked out to be. I guess.
For a few pictures for a few days.
Yeah.
And you start drinking again, you're going to start retaining water. You're going to eat rubbish food, so you're going to get a bit of salt in there. Then water retention comes in even more. You're not getting your steps in because you're on holiday. You know, all this kind of stuff. And suddenly you're like, okay, cool. I looked really good for 2 days, and then guess what? I didn't look like that at the end of the holiday.
I guess now, because for anyone that's seen Harry's content, they'll know that, number one, he's very honest with everything that he puts out there. And I think anyone that knows you in real life will say that. And I think it's one of the biggest compliments that you can get, you know, because what you see on your Instagram is what you get in real life. And I think that's really amazing, especially in a world of I won't go too deeply into it, but a lot of these influencers and people in your position that you do see.
I'm super happy to go into that if you want to.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got a lot to say.
Dangerously honest sometimes.
But look, you can say these things, I think, with confidence, because you are 100% you, and everything you put on your Instagram is you, and unapologetically. But what I would say as well, which is why we are a fan of your content, at Primal Race. We love it because you can also back it up as well. Like, a lot of the stuff that you actually put on there is extremely informative, is very educational, but is also very entertaining because of how candid you are. So I think that you have you've carved out a real nice space for yourself in the fitness influencer space, especially because you're here and everything looks so green and beautiful. So.
And dial up the colour. I really appreciate that, and I think. I always say this because I get a lot of people who ask me, how do I get into, whether it's fitness influencing or just influencing in general. My first answer to them will be, I appreciate it when people feel that they've been influenced positively by what I do. But I don't make money from influencing, and I think this is a really, really important point that I never really get across. I sort of don't talk about that sort of stuff anyway, and I probably should. You don't get paid for making videos on the internet, right? I do it because, from a commercial point of view, right, that helps me to grow my coaching business, and it allows me to get exposure to brands such as Primal Race, right? And without it, we would never have found each other. But it also is it is such a congested space with so many people trying to do the same thing. You can't fake being honest, because if you're one day, if you're lying, you're going to slip up. Mm-hmm. Or someone's going to get a picture of you doing something. I do not pretend to be a perfect person, right? I would rather post a story on my Instagram being like, guys, I really, really messed it up. Yeah. Because people are like, cool. Rather than me telling everybody that I don't ever go, I don't eat carbs or I don't whatever, and then someone finding a picture of me stuffing my face in a thing, or, whatever it might be. If you're honest, then people will either follow you because they like you, or they won't.
Yeah.
And guess what? That is the easiest way to connect with people. And it's, tell your story, because everybody out there has an interesting story. I don't care who you are. Your story is interesting to some people. Mm-hmm. It's relatable to some people. So talk about it if you want to, and if you're willing to, because there will be thousands, if not millions of people who relate to it. My stuff really took off when I started talking about the sort of crushing corporate London life after going from the really fast-paced life of the army.
Yeah.
And then the PTSD diagnosis was actually, way after that. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to talk about this because people need to know this if they're going to understand who I am, because it will understand why I have ups and downs. It will understand why sometimes my content, and people will say they never know what's going to come next. Neither do I. I do not plan my content, right? That is way beyond my capability. But you will notice, like it's really obvious, you will see my content, like if I post a load of pictures for a week, do you know why? It's probably because I'm having a bit of a bad week, and I don't really have the energy to muster getting on camera and trying to talk about something deep, meaningful, educational, informational, but certainly not humorous. I will try and let people know that that's why, but also I will just go through blanks where I don't post things, and it is a window into my life, like very much so. More than a window, it's a full conservatory.
Yeah.
But it represents who I am, and the response. And this is why I just always say this as well. And thank you to everybody who follows me, who sees my content, and who engages with it, because I think you've seen over the years the growth in me as a person, in my journey, which has taken us everywhere. But they've all been there to support me through it, and it sounds silly to say it, but it has been so uplifting. And there's times where people that I have never ever met and probably will never meet in real life have been the most supportive people in my life.
Yeah,
they
so nice.
Message me and say these amazing things, and they know that if I'm in a bad way, that I'm not going to reply straight away, but it's just a little message that says, hey man, I noticed that you haven't put anything up for a couple of days, and I know that normally coincides with you having a really, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Okay. With you having a really shitty day.
Yeah.
Or week, because it's never just a day. And that, it means the world. And I do always try to get back to people, as sometimes you do miss it, and I always feel so awful if I don't get back to people. But those sorts of messages just mean the world, and it's why I send them to other people, because I know what that looks like. I know what it feels like.
And I'm sure, Harry, as well, the messages and stuff, they are very powerful, but I'm sure that your content as well is very uplifting to a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people take a lot of value from seeing it as well. So you are doing some important work out there. And speaking of important work, one of my favorite pieces of content of yours is your video about Bali, actually.
Oh,
so if anyone hasn't seen it, it's an entertaining video to say the least, right?
Is it? Is it? The Australians didn't think so.
No.
And the Daily Mail didn't think so.
No.
And Daily Mail Australia didn't think so. And Perth Now didn't think so.
But I thought it was like you said, it was a bit of a greenhouse into your thoughts about...
I was not expecting that to be the video that you brought up of all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, let's run with this.
I thought it was good. I've never actually been to Bali, so for me it was I won't be going there, I guess.
God, don't say that. I can see the comments now. Sorry, I see the comments now. Do you want me to give a quick?
Yeah, for anyone that hasn't
summary.
seen it, because it is, is a video that obviously in some regards, depending on how you measure things, did quite well. It was insightful. Some things that maybe split the audience, but
yeah, and look, I don't really post controversial topics online, because I think it's not in my wheelhouse, and that's not what I'm there to do. But I will, as you say, I will be very honest about what I think. Now, I went to Bali for 2 months. My tourist visa had run out here, so I had to leave the country. Absolutely fine, unlike a lot of people that will try and stay. So I went to Bali. I thought, do you know what? This is the perfect time to go. It's a few hours from here. You can actually fly direct from Phuket to Denpasar. And I spent 2 months there, which is the holiday visa time you're allowed. And I was thoroughly miserable while I was there. And I don't mean all day, every day. Of course, there were some amazing times there. I was there with a mate. He's an ex-Royal Marine. He's actually going to be out here. You might meet him actually after the final race.
Yeah.
He had come out here, and then we went to Bali together, and we got this massive villa. We ended up with like snakes coming in the house and spitting cobras.
Oh, what?
Oh my god! Oh mate.
That is incredible.
Yeah, spitting
but
cobras
also terrifying.
coming under the sofa one night. He and I didn't know what it was, so we like chased it around the house with a bin and tried to get it in. And I had to send a video to somebody. They were like, "Dude, that's a spitting cobra. Leave it the fuck alone." So we locked it in a cupboard overnight. Directly under my bedroom, like, honest to God, it was, it was such a, that night was actually hilarious. I loved it.
I'm fascinated by snakes, by the way. That's an incredible story.
I've got so many videos of it. And then a guy just came the next morning, also our landlady, who was like, I am traveling, I'm not interested. So I was like, well, what do we do? And she was like, I don't know, sort it. So this amazing guy just turned up, literally in a pair of flip-flops, picked it, and a hooked stick, picked it out the back of a cupboard, put it in a dry bag, just walked off.
See you later. Cheers.
But for me, Bali encapsulates everything I try not to be online.
Okay.
And that, I think, and again, I want to make the differentiation because I can hear the keyboard warriors typing already, right? I am sure it was absolutely incredible 10 years ago, 5 years ago. When I talk to people about this in a serious way, they all say the same thing, which is that COVID was a real turning point for that because of the remote working, people not wanting to be stuck in the UK or wherever they are, and realizing that you could actually live your life abroad, especially if you work online. Bali has always been associated, or since COVID, has been associated with a sort of buffed and bronzed influencer who's also selling you crypto, shower filters, whatever it might be, like any get-rich-quick scheme. It comes out from a Westerner in Bali, right? And when I got there, I found that to absolutely be the case. I was really hoping that it wasn't going to be like that. The restaurants, amazing. The gyms, world-class. And sorry, Fitness Street, but they are better than here. They're way better than here because they are built with these huge complexes and everything's inside. They're also 10 times more expensive, but they're phenomenal. Everybody's in great shape. But there was this weird undertone that everybody I spoke to, and maybe it's just me, but everyone I spoke to felt that they were trying to use you in a way to get up a ladder.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I say everyone, obviously that's an exaggeration. There are some people out there who have already built very successful businesses and are out there because they can. Those people, network with those people, and those people are great. And I met quite a few of them. But the majority of people that I met, especially in the gym, it's the wannabe influencers, it's the so-and-so, and it was just the whole attitude that went with it, I just found to be really poor. The people who were the least offensive gym bunnies and gym influencers were the people with millions of followers. You never once saw them with a phone out or a camera out or anything. But the amount of people who would set up next to them and try and film so that they were in the background of their videos.
Okay, yeah.
People blocking fire escapes and staircases with tripods and then looking at you like you were the problem when you tried to walk up and down the stairs. That just to me is a massive lack of respect. Not just for other gym goers, that's a huge problem, but it was a lack of respect for just people in general. It was just so entitled. The flip side of that, I went and trained at Wanderlust, and I thought that place was fantastic. Staff, amazing. Facility, amazing. And just really what I look for in a gym. They let you get on with it. It wasn't kind of jam-packed with as much whatever. I've got loads of friends from there who they come here and visit. I probably can't, I don't know if I can go back to Bali now after that video. And then I guess the final thing that really disappointed me about there was it's a perceived lack of investment from tourist money back into the...
Oh, really? Okay. That's a bit of a shame.
Well, the infrastructure is terrible, right? But, which I would understand if you are going to either a developing nation or somewhere above that, but that hasn't sort of, hit kind of peak consumerism and development yet, which Bali definitely hasn't. I mean, a lot of consumerism, but certainly, big open spaces still when you get out of the towns. But the traffic and the roads and everything like that, the roads are in such poor state, but you're paying $8 for a coffee. There's a tourist tax in there somewhere. So where is that money going? Is it being funneled into the local economy, or is it being taken out of the economy? And when I spoke to people about it, because I did ask about this, a lot of Australian-owned businesses, a lot of other Indonesian-owned businesses, but who just took not from the island, so the money was flowing out and going up to Jakarta or wherever. And it just felt to me that there was, I don't know, it just all felt a bit off. And I went to leave at the end of the 2 months. I was going to fly up to Kuala Lumpur, do a visa run, come back, and then go and visit Lombok. And honestly, I went to go book the flight, and I just thought, you know what, I really can't do this. And they say, look, Bali chooses you, and the other way around. And look, I'll be honest, this is really going to get people going, I'm afraid. But I'm really glad it didn't, because I've seen the people that it did choose. And good God, they're not people I want to be around.
Well, I mean, yeah, like we said, Harry's very honest, guys.
And look, I've said all this before, so whether or not people get upset by that, this has been front page of the Daily Mail. For God, I mean, it must have been a slow news day. Yeah. But then equally, I think compare it to Thailand. Yes. I think they are completely opposite variations of a theme. Fitness Street is one street. It's 700 meters long or whatever. If you want to come here and become an influencer, it just won't work, right? There's loads of people here who come here who have millions and millions of followers and they train here. The gyms are pumping out content all the time. But it's a very small street. And whilst I try to show the best of the street, you know, once you leave it, you're in a very different part of Thailand, and then Phuket itself is very different to the rest of Thailand. So I would say if you want to come and train and just be around people that train all the time, like this is the most phenomenal place. You can walk everywhere.
Yeah.
You just get a taxi where you need to go because you don't, you know, there's a lot of permits and stuff you need to have to drive around here. But it doesn't have the same crowd of people all trying to sell you something on the street. And to be honest, when people do turn up doing that, they don't last.
No, they don't. You're right. I've seen it myself, and I haven't been here anywhere near as long as you. Like, I feel like I love it here. This is my third or fourth time now, and we're delighted, obviously, to be bringing Primal here. And one of the real reasons we wanted to bring it here is because it's still quite raw, and it's very authentic, and it's quite rugged and a little bit rough around the edges, but like, the gyms are like really, really good, but maybe one of the assault bikes doesn't work, and I just love that. Because it's just so real. Like
I always say to people, I'm like, look, this is the difference. Right? Bali is very polished, everything's beautiful, it's expensive. You've got all this stuff there, but this is spit and sawdust fitness here.
Yeah.
And I do think there is, even in just a few years that I've been coming here and now live here, there is a sort of gentrification around the street already. It was already very touristy and much more expensive than the rest of the island. But there is building, as I'm sure you've seen, going on apace everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm brutally honest, I think it may ruin some of the appeal of the soy. It may attract a different crowd, so we'll still have the numbers here. But I think we're already seeing quite a few people who have been coming here for, you know, a decade actually choose not to come here because it is different to what it used to be. And that some of that is progress and change, some of that is positive, some of that is negative. It depends on the individual. But I just can't think of a place in my life where I've ever trained harder, sweat more, met more people who do the same. And it doesn't matter if they are 100 kilos overweight, if they are a pro bodybuilder, if they are an ultra marathon runner. You are all in that gym together, and they're going to take no prisoners. And it doesn't matter which gym. Look, it's all very tribal with the gyms here as well. Look, I know my personal favourite as well.
Yeah.
It's Unit 27. And but you know, there's been a pop-up of loads of new gyms over the last few years as well, both regular gyms and the conditioning gyms. And I don't even do the Muay Thai, and there's 11 of them, 12 of them.
I think that, like, look, let's be completely honest, you know, in any industry, I think that competition is a good thing. It raises the overall standard. It makes you look for, like, the next best thing. It forces you to be the best version of yourself. Otherwise, you just won't survive. And I think as a result of that, if you look down the street now, there's 4 or 5 or 6 or even 7 competitors who are all kind of in the same space. And honestly, they're all really good. They are.
Really good.
Like, they're all brilliant. And I think that it's a byproduct of, well, these guys are doing this and they're really good, so we need to up our game. And then they up their game, so then these guys up their game. And I think that that's extremely healthy. And I think the real winners then are the people that come here and the people that live here.
I totally agree. I totally agree. My fear is that it becomes too tribal.
Yeah.
I think healthy competition between the gyms and the people that go to the gyms is great. And you do see it. There, you know, some of the classes, especially towards the week, the back end of the week, where they're really difficult stuff. For example, you know, death row, right? Yeah. Death row at Unit 27, renowned as being the most fearsome thing you can do on this street. And it is really tough. Really tough. But what I love about it is that when they're doing it, they're running past one of the other gyms. And look, I've always said to them, I like the people who train at both gyms, right? But I have always said to the guys running death row, I'm like, look, man, it's based off military fitness. I've got, you know, I think you should be making everybody look away from the other gym, or you should have everyone formed up tight and chanting the gym name or whatever, because I think it brings a sense of community that already exists here, and it gives you a sub-community within it as well. There's the other bad thing about this street is loud motorbikes. If you come here, please do not get a loud motorbike. You don't need it. It's a 700-meter long street. Everyone will think you have a tiny. But I think, yeah, look, the tribalism of the gyms is, as you say, there is a competitive element that comes from the emotional side. And then from a business perspective, they have to have that competitive side because people will go elsewhere if they don't like it. And, you know, there's plenty of places throughout the rest of the island. I mean, this island is becoming a real haven for fitness retreats.
No, it really is, yeah. And like we were at Cult this morning, incredible, really, really good. Love the guys over there, great team. Obviously you've got Bang Tao up the top as well. Obviously more MMA, mixed martial arts, but they've got an unbelievable S&C space there as well. Yeah, it's just popping out more and more of them. And if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to plug Dubai, Abu Dhabi for a second, because I think that one of my favorite things about Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and it just going off what you said there with like the gyms being here, like a little bit tribal. The beautiful thing in Dubai is you do have that competition, but it is very, very healthy. Like everyone, the fitness community in Dubai is so tight. All the gym owners are mates, and like they all have meetings and talk about like how I can help make your gym better. But aren't you a competitor? Yeah, but we won this. This is all part like for the people and for fitness and the overall vision of making people fitter and healthier, which I think is really beautiful.
When I first went to Dubai, on my traveling phase, and I was chatting to a few people who were saying, you know, and my account, by the way, then had like nowhere near the sort of followers it does now, but I think it was still showing an interesting story. And I was asking around, and I was ex-military, obviously into fitness, doing this stuff. I had really cool branding. I mean, I'm actually Through Dark, these guys here who started by some SBS guys. And they had given me a load of clothing and things, and so I think people recognised it. And I was being asked to come to these different events.
Yeah.
And I was messaging these guys. I was like, oh God, honestly, you know, this is on this day and this. I was like, do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? And like, because I'm getting all these messages, and they just sent me a picture, and it was like 4 of them in a row.
Yeah.
And they were at a beach club together. They were like, yeah, we know each other.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, can I just message one of you with the answer then, please?
It's so cool, right?
And then you've got, and again, Dubai, I will give a little plug, because the gym I really want to visit there is the Locker, Toby's new gym.
Yeah.
And Toby is an ex-Royal Marine. We just chatted on Instagram for a couple of years. He was my coach for a bit as well. He's obviously moved into now sort of owning and managing the gym with the Locker. But I came to Dubai on my very first visit, so before sort of meeting the guys from here. It was with my old job, my corporate job. And I said to Toby, look, I'm going to be in Dubai. If you're around, let's get a brew. And he just drove in his big pickup truck, drove over to my hotel, picked me up, took me out. We went for a couple of beers, got some dinner, all that. And we went and trained, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that to me, really, that was my first intro to Dubai. And I thought, yeah, this is nothing like what I had been told it was going to be like.
Yeah, man. You'd. I mean, obviously, I love it here as well, but I do love Dubai, and I'm very happy to call it my home. I think, and particularly the fitness community, like you said about the Locker there. I mean, we've been in the Locker, we've filmed, we've done content there, we've had athletes down there, we've trained there. I've done a competition there, and it's been open for what, like 25 minutes?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
right?
But they're just so accommodating, and it's the same with all the gyms. I could name 25, 30, 40 gyms that are just like, they just want to help you, they just want to be a part of things, they just want to help see fitness grow, they want to see people do cool things in fitness. And that's why, like, I owe a lot of the success of Primal to that community and those people. And like Primal, for anyone that doesn't know, in UAE specifically, like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, those races there are huge. We have thousands of people come down and compete, and I think it's a real good representation of just how supportive and enthusiastic the fitness community is in the UAE. I can't like praise it highly enough.
Well, I think then it obviously ties in with here, because we've got Unit 27 here and then TK 27 in Dubai. So I think I'm probably fine to say this now, but actually when Dale was going to set up TK 27, I was actually going to be one of the first investors.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, it is, I completely get it, because I only ever immerse myself in the fitness community there. I'm not a luxury lifestyle kind of guy, right? You know, the trainers I'm wearing right now, they're fakes from the market. The ones I ran in, I just showed you the cool video from the train, fakes from the market.
Yeah.
I don't need to live in beach clubs and by, hanging out with bottle service and all this kind of stuff. Like, it just doesn't interest me. And as you said, I've done Marbella.
Yeah.
But the fitness community was so welcoming to me in Dubai when I was going through a really difficult time. And I'd just come from Nicaragua, of all places, and went to Dubai. And we won't go into that. And quite different places.
Yeah.
And I just needed to reconnect with people who felt about things the way that I do. You know, the Dead Man's Clique guys. You know, great. That's the first people I met up with. Menathon, met up with Toby. And I stayed there for a month. with an old military friend of mine. He was out of the country and just gave me his apartment for a month, which saved me a fortune.
Yeah, yeah.
And because he was hiking in Nepal. And I just thought, I can definitely do this. And I was this close to going to Dubai. And I came here to visit. And as I said, I wasn't really planning on enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then I found this place, and the rest is history.
It's pulled you in. But
Yeah.
I want to get back to you now then, Harry, if that's okay. And I want to now go and talk about the military stuff and the military background, and just take us all the way back to the start. So like, when did you sign up? And then take us through your whole journey. Let's do it.
Sure. So, I mean, the sign up, it's so representative of the way that I do things in life. We were getting towards the end of university. I studied languages, so that's why I lived in Marbella, I lived in Paris, pretty cool stuff there. Got to the end of university and everyone's putting in their job applications, and you've got friends who are going to go work at the Big Four, and you've got friends who are going to go be, do marketing at L'Oreal and this kind of stuff. And I looked at everybody's applications and I just thought, good God, all of these just make me want to shampoo. I'd rather shampoo a cactus than do any of these, right? I was going to say something different then. So I thought, right, well, what do I like? I like being fit and active. I like working in a team. I quite like leading teams, to be honest. That's just the way my personality comes out. What fits around that? And I then had to make the really, really crushing realization that it was the military, that I had so pretty dutifully slagged off for years and told my dad I was not going to follow in his footsteps and go in the military. And his face when I said that I'd signed up he was just ecstatic.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. And interestingly, my best friend at the time, well, my best mate, really old childhood friend, we met up during the holidays of university, and we both like, I have really exciting news. I've got to tell it. No, you first. No, okay, no, I'll go first. No, I'll go first. And it turned out we both signed up at the same time.
No way.
And so I did that, went through Sandhurst. Actually, I did a little gap before I went and became a ski instructor for a bit, and then just between the sort of end of uni and the start of Sandhurst. Went to Sandhurst, commissioned into the parachute regiment, got pretty badly injured, and so broke both my ankles. Yeah, you should probably know this actually. I don't have any ligaments in any of my ankles, none.
Yeah.
So I actually run with my feet. I get DOMs in my feet. I don't know why I started a run club. I really don't.
I'm going to be watching your running footage now a little bit closer and just.
Please don't. If you can just do like just up from sort of chest up. So then did that, and then I had to, because of the injury, I had to transfer. They said you basically can't stay in the infantry.
Was this in training? You hit the ankles?
So I'd finished Sandhurst,
right.
And then I was doing the next bit of training, and they said, look, you definitely can't jump out of planes. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. You become a liability to everybody else at that point. Totally acceptable. They said you can't stay in the infantry because the risk of you injuring yourself is so high. So you can swap to the cavalry, which these days is armour, so anything, so tanks, wheels, tracks, that stuff. So I read the entire defence review from cover to cover. It's a lengthy document to work out where I thought the army was going. And I picked a regiment that was being re-rolled from sort of small tracked vehicles onto wheeled vehicles, but maintaining quite a heavy dismounted presence, so on their feet. In reconnaissance, but very deep reconnaissance, so right behind enemy lines and going through that stuff. And I thought, good God, that sounds really exciting. Yeah, let's do that. So I went to put my papers, I went to go talk to my boss about it, and he said, I thought you'd choose them. I've already booked your flight to go and visit them. They're in Morocco on exercise. So a few hours later, I was at the airport, went to Morocco, met up with them. About 6 people in the tent I walked into I knew from school, which really doesn't play down the army officer stereotype at all. And then we agreed to transfer, and I spent the next, must be 8 years in the Light Dragoons. I then got the chance to do some really exciting stuff. So firstly, there was I just loved so much of my time we were based up in North Yorkshire, which sounds like it's a kind of weird place to be based, but huge garrison town. Very odd place. But you are surrounded by soldiers, and Light Dragoon soldiers work hard. Luke will watch this and be really upset, but I used to instruct parachute regiment troopers, or like soldiers in training, and then transferred across the Light Dragoons. But soldiers in the right regiments work so hard, and they push you in every way possible, and they push all your buttons. but they know how to do it and they're fantastic at it, but it is almost always in jest. It's just to wind you up. And if it's not in jest, then you're probably not doing your job very well as a boss. I like to think that I did it fairly well, not perfectly, but fairly well. I still get invited to the odd wedding and stuff, so I think I'm doing all right.
Pretty good then.
But you look at actually some of the really serious athletes now in sort of other fitness races and sponsored by some pretty big people. You've got Danny Ray. Danny was one of my soldiers. We went on Special Forces selection together. I broke my ankles for about the 8th time when I was doing that, so that was my reasoning. I was like, right, I've probably got to stop doing this now. I deployed overseas a lot, from Eastern Europe in the depths of winter, absolutely miserable. Norway doing Arctic warfare. I did North Africa to do counter-terrorism, which is actually where I then ran the ultramarathon last year. Afghanistan, and just a lot of stuff. And after selection, after breaking my ankles, I kind of thought that was it. And I got a call from my boss and said, "Do you want to go on tour with the Special Forces?" I thought, yeah, sure. I'm pretty sure I've just failed the selection, but he was like, "No, cool, you just get attached to them and go and do some stuff." So I did. Yeah. Really interesting. For obvious reasons, can't go into any of it. And then I was going to leave the military after that, and then they said, "Well, do you want to come and work for us a bit more?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, can't really turn that down." So I did that for another few years. And then, the rest is history. Then it all started to go a bit wrong. I was on a pretty downward spiral, and I'd been trying to hold it together for a long time.
Really?
So, post-Afghanistan, I witnessed something very, very unpleasant when I was there right at the end. And in fact, you witness plenty of unpleasant things when you deploy to the military,
sure.
Whether you are personally involved in them or whether it's a third-party thing, whether you are on an exploitation team afterwards, which means you're going to collect evidence or just see the scene and try and understand more about what happened or providing security. There was a deeply, deeply unpleasant scenario where, just pause, by the way, you might have to cut this just because the words that I'm going to use, it will trigger every filter on every social media platform. But there was a deeply, deeply unpleasant scenario where some guys who we believe were related to the Islamic State group went in and attacked the Kabul University, and you can see this online. Their counterattack went in, they barricaded themselves in the nearest building and blew themselves up after killing everybody in the building. The building that they had barricaded themselves in was the Women's Education Institute. And so going in and having to understand that and see that and the sheer carnage. And I can't even explain to you how that looks, smells, feels. I mean, I didn't lose anyone there. Yeah. Those people lost, their families lost somebody that day. But I had also been part of certain efforts to help increase engagement in education, higher education. And whilst I know it was not my fault. I know this, right, logically, but my brain did complete backflips, and I didn't know how to deal with it. And I didn't know I had to deal with it. I think that was the hardest thing about it. I have always been a happy-go-lucky guy, life and soul of the party. You ask my friends, who was it? I would turn up. If we're going drinking at the weekend, I'm there with 2 bottles of champagne and I'm standing on the table. I'm spraying it around everybody, and I was like, let's do this, right? That guy disappeared really fast. But I tried to keep being that guy. And that leads to so many dark paths that you can go down, ultimately, which led to me, trying to kill myself, basically. And, there we go, I told you this would happen. And the thing is, I'm really happy that I can talk about this now because I couldn't for a long time. Sorry.
And we're happy to hear it, mate, yeah.
And that's what I try to bring to all of the stuff that I do. I remember it's so hard to explain that. I try to remember the guy that I was pretending to be, remember the guy underneath him, the guy that you were pushing down and trying to ignore, who wasn't dealing with the problem that he had, who was trying to find any reason to do to just not be on his own and to not think about stuff. But at the same time, the guy who would hide in the corner of a room under a duvet because he really didn't want to go out anywhere. This is really getting me. And that's why I just thought it's so important to speak out about this, because I started speaking about it, and I can't explain to you, man, the amount of people that messaged me about it. And they asked for help, and originally, I had no followers on Instagram, but I did it, and people saw this video, and they messaged, and I did try to help people at the beginning. But I realized really quickly that that's not the answer, because for a multitude of reasons, but one is that you are applying your own scenario over somebody else's scenario, which doesn't work.
No.
It was the same as me trying to be party guy on top of PTSD suicidal guy, right? Those two, whilst they're extremely compatible for a very short amount of time, in the long run, that is a recipe for disaster. When you try and help people that are going through something similar, my answer now to them is the same, which is, here are some people that I think you should speak to. Here is a list of numbers, especially in the UK, right? UK mental health support is fantastic, and people won't agree with that. But actually, the issue is people don't ask for the help, and they don't seek it out. The NHS, the Ministry of Defence, all of these people, they are not mind readers. They cannot know that you're in a bad way unless you tell them. Should they do more? Of course. There is always something we can do better, that you or I can do better for a friend, that the government can do for people who have found themselves in this scenario. But when you are at rock bottom and you are feeling like shit and you are considering that singular thing that is going to end everything, and there are so many people out there that have been into that scenario and in that place, for fuck's sake, talk to someone.
Yeah.
Because do you know what? It will. The person you talk to, so much of it is about getting it out. And if I'm talking about it now, like the reason it's making me cry now is because it's such an emotional release to talk about it. And if you've never talked to somebody about the problems you're having and the mental issues you're having, the physical issues, whatever it might be, just emotional problems, you have not got it off your chest. You might think I think I'm quite a logical person. I can overanalyze everything to the nth degree, but I can also find a solution most of the time. But in that scenario, the solution is not you. The solution is an external party, and it needs to be. And I started therapy, and it was all during COVID and lockdowns, and oh God, it was just terrible, and it was all remote, and I had to do a thing. And I got my first video call, and I was just walking around London, and my therapist was like, this is highly irregular. You should be somewhere quiet and whatever. And I just had to say to her, I was like, I'm not ready for that yet. I don't even know what therapy is. Yeah. I don't know. Am I meant to tell you how I feel? Am I meant to, she would say, how are you today? I'd be like, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Yeah. She's like, you're not fine. We're on a therapy call and we have an hour. And how was your weekend? She's like, are we going to get to it?
What was it then, Harry, that so you'd never done therapy before? And by the way, I'm so happy that if nothing else, this podcast has given you an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, no, thank you, because it is a really important thing to talk about for both, and I do recognize it's hugely important for me to still talk about it. Yeah. I am not this thing never goes away. No. You just get better at coping with it.
Yeah. I think that the whole stiff upper lip thing, I do think there is a place for obviously the old man up culture, but then there is definitely also these things are not mutually exclusive. No. You shouldn't man up, but also never talk about stuff. You can do both, you can toughen up a little bit, but you can also, it's okay to also talk,
You've basically just touched on my favorite things to talk to people about, which is as you say, there is a time and a place to man the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? Or woman the fuck up. Person the fuck up. Let's be whatever. But as an individual, it is not on society to deal with every single one of your personal issues. Mm-hmm. But as a society, we also have, and not just as a society, as friends, as colleagues, as whatever, we do have a duty, as people, to help other people out.
Of course.
Because that's how you make the world go, that's how you make the world better, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. Mm-hmm. If that person who I'm always with is doing well, they are going to lift me up, and vice versa. Yeah. But man-up culture has gone way too far. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite things to do, and I don't know I haven't done one in a while, you've reminded me, I might do one, is basically just poking holes in man up influencer videos.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I love this.
If you are the kind of person that, we'll go for it, right? If you are the wooden chopping board, avocado, eggs and steak. I love avocado, eggs and steak, right? Do I eat it off a chopping board, presented perfectly every morning for breakfast and tell people that because I do that, I'm a better man than them? No. I sound like a BBC newsreader, right? I am not here to tell people how to be a man. But if push comes to shove, we can get my commendations out from US generals if you want. We'll go and get my campaign medal. We'll go and whatever. I don't need a guy who bench presses a load and eats steak to tell me that he's more of a man than I am because he does certain activities, or because he doesn't watch porn, or because he doesn't, it's got to this ludicrous level. And the flip side of that is if you're a 15-year-old boy who doesn't know what you want from life and you're worried that you're not going to get laid and you're not going to be rich and you're not going to... Bro, join the club. That's every 15-year-old boy in history, right?
Yeah.
It's like, look at Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Andrew Tate. And I will say this proudly with a full chest. The guy's a complete fucking cockwomble, right? And I can say a lot worse than that, but we won't go there. But he identified a really epic business market, which is like teenage boys who want to attract women and be successful. And he managed to sell something into it. And so now we have this copycat culture that goes through that. And then it becomes shock culture, because copycat culture only works for so long, and it's shock culture. If you are a bloke of any age and you're not sure where you're going in life, don't stress about it. None of us know, right? I mean, look at your career, look at my career. Like, there are shocks that happen in your life and your career, and whether it's your personal life or your professional life, that lead you to a new place. And you just have to jump two-footed, probably not in rugby actually, but jump two-footed at those, at those opportunities and make the most of it, because you don't know where it will come from. Look, we're sitting in this restaurant and we're doing a podcast and whatever, and if you'd told me 2 years ago that I was going to become an influencer in my mid to late 30s.
Yeah. If you told me 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have believed you that I was going to be doing this now. Like, yeah, I think you've nailed a really you've nailed a really important point there. Look, I think, like, for any of the young lads that are listening to this, because for anyone that does follow like Primal Race and the message that we try and push in UAE as well, is we are very big on like men's mental health. And you mentioned some amazing groups there, like the DMC guys, Marathon in Dubai, like super supportive guys, Yeah, you've got some tough guys there, or shall we say like traditional tough guys. You've also got some guys who are super successful in business. You've got some guys that are super successful in fashion, or so many different things. There's so many different ways that you can demonstrate like your masculine energy or whatever. It's not just this one route of like, I'm going to eat steak, eggs, and avocado off a wooden chopping board and hold a big knife, and I've got like 8-pack abs. Like,
but also, what I would want to say is, look, they always say, it's all cringe until it works, and social media is cringe. If you're not doing it well, if you're not doing it cringy, you're not doing it right. Yes, but there is a difference between slightly cringy content and if I go back and look at my Facebook account from school, because that is cringe, right? That is genuine cringe because of times have changed. If you are posting how to be a man content, how to be a successful entrepreneur when you're 21 and you're living in your mum's basement, right? You are going to look back on that when you're 40 and your life is completely different and you're probably bald because of all the steroids you've taken. You're on your 8th Turkey trip, right? You're going to look back at that and think, why did I get involved in that?
Yeah.
Why was I actually a negative message to young men?
Yeah.
No one's saying you have to go around and be the opposite of that. You do not, I couldn't care less. I'm a very inclusive person in who I talk to, deal with, whatever. But don't get me wrong, there's people on all sides of every spectrum that will piss you off. But that's the people. It's not there. It's not because of who they are and what they represent. It's probably because that person's annoying, right? And I think there's this real lack of distinction. We've lost nuance in online debate now, totally fueled by sort of the algorithms. They show you what you want to see. We were discussing this earlier. I worked in psychological operations for the military. People will, when I say this, that's why I avoid saying it, because people just assume that I was running, when people were locked up for the COVID, for the first outbreak of COVID, I've got pictures of me behind those podiums in number 10. We were working out what the hell was going on. How did we stop people dying from this? The message since has become, it was all fake and it was a hoax and the vaccines and the whatever. No, we were all spraying our Amazon parcels with Dettol because we were like, are we going to die from this? Like the government thought exactly the same. But as online discourse changes, people get turned into a different person, and you see it. So the government believed exactly the same as everybody else, right? No one was lying to anybody, but the narrative has been twisted to talk about this. You know, we have anti-vaxxers. For the first time in history, we're seeing the rates of measles go up because anti-vax stuff has gone through the roof. Like, I am not here to comment on the pros and cons of vaccinations because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, right? I mean, I can see a graph and see that it works, and we have eradicated diseases, and people who don't believe in vaccines are idiots. But, but you know, if you're telling people to go and drink unpasteurized milk, right, that is an actual health risk, right? And then my favorite thing is when you see people, because they don't understand what they're talking about, they go, right, you know, I'm going to eat this grass-fed steak. Well, we're in the UK. All steak is grass-fed. There's no such thing as, like, they do use silage for bits, but it's all grass-fed, right? That's why we don't have to label it as grass-fed. Do I think free-range eggs are better? Yeah, probably, because they always look better, don't they? They're bright, dark yellow and really nice. And but then you're telling people to have unpasteurized milk or raw milk, right? And then you see them making videos, and sorry, it really does make me laugh, because then they go like, all you got to do is warm it up for a little bit and then that's pasteurization. That is literally the pasteurization process. So it's not only that these people are spinning these stupid messages, but it's so uninformed, it's dangerous, and then that translates, so that's just on the nutrition side. Don't get me started on science-based lifting. That stopped us all being able to use a cable pull, like, you know, when JPG Lift, when that came out. No one was able to use a cable pull down for about a year after that. Great, glad to see people getting into fitness. Just please understand when it is appropriate and when it's not to do certain things. 5 o'clock in a pure gym is not it. And, you know, for 8 of you ran one bit of kit. And also then if you don't understand what you're talking about, put your hands up and say, I don't know. Because you just have to get one person who seems to get the same message across, or he gets, drink unpasteurized milk, women belong in the kitchen, and if you're not a millionaire by 25, you're doing it wrong. If one guy keeps getting hit with those 3 messages, as the algorithm will push him because he's enjoying those videos, that teenage boy is going to grow up to be a deeply unhappy man because he hasn't achieved those things.
So because of the world then, Harry, you're in this world, so you could probably answer this question better than anyone, and probably more honestly as well, or hopefully honestly, I guess, because how dangerous is this and how easy it is to do now? How dangerous is this world of just misinformation?
It is, I think, the single biggest threat to the functioning of Western societies at the moment. And that is a really big thing to say, given the fact that today, on filming day, we've literally just got America launching against Iran. Iran has just launched against the US Fifth Fleet base in Bahrain. We've got Russia and Ukraine. You know, I've been to Ukraine, I went there after the war. The Russia-Ukraine scenario was where we saw, Russia is an incredibly powerful state actor at misinformation, as is Iran, but obviously the West is as well to a certain extent. The UK, and I will say this hand on heart again, the UK does not really participate in misinformation and disinformation because the British government's line has always been that you can't unpick the truth, but it's why they're very slow to sometimes react to certain things. So when COVID came, there were all these things, right? If you can hold your breath for this long, you don't have COVID. Did you know that it came from here? It came from that. We look at the shooting down of the passenger planes over Ukraine, right? And it wasn't us. Oh, it was a false flag. Oh, it was this. It just takes one of these to stick, and suddenly that becomes the narrative. If we do not correct misinformation online, we lead down a very, very dark path, and it leads to incredibly dangerous politics. And we don't even have anywhere close to the amount of time to get started on politics.
But what I would say to that, and I'm no expert on politics, but I would say I completely agree. By the way, correcting misinformation, but how? I don't see it being possible. I think with there's just too much, especially now with AI. So, is it even possible?
Well, I think AI actually probably has a major role to play in it. So AI could be trained to basically refute these claims online. You look at something like the use of grok on Twitter. People now, which is really lazy, Grok, is this true? Grok actually just pulls from multiple news sources and will correct people. But people then try and spin it and change what they're asking to get the answer they want. If you are learning something and your original idea or opinion was false, legitimately, your facts are wrong, just accept it and accept that actually there are different facts out there, because facts are facts. We're not in a post-truth world. Well, we are in a post-truth world, but that should not affect the way that you as a functioning individual look at the world. You should be able to critically evaluate facts, statements, science, and opinions, put them together and form a coherent argument that does not also require you to be a fucking dick to someone on the internet.
But I think that, like, to give people credit, right? I think that it is very, very hard to decipher between what is like objective fact and what is like subjective whatever bullshit. Because people do. You like. I've been guilty. I'll look at an Instagram thing. Someone talks to me on the screen. They talk to me with such confidence. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah. And then I scroll past, and it's somewhere logged in my brain that unpasteurized milk is fine.
Yeah. right. And I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
It's like, again, Twitter, a classic example, like total cesspit of a place. Elon Musk, who owns it, pushes disinformation deliberately from his accounts, right? And they can tweak. Go to TikTok. I've been into TikTok headquarters, right? They talk about heating profiles. Now, that normally comes from a sales perspective, but they can increase and decrease your visibility. And we know this happens. If you see someone talking about something, click on the post, look at the comments, and look at people refuting it, arguing it, or agreeing with it in the comments section. Because clickbait is the single most important, well, it's the single biggest engagement factor, right? If you cut this clip and it's me just going, so-and-so is a fucking idiot, right? People are going to go, oh, cool, okay, well, we'll see what that dickhead's talking about. Right? But
we'll test it.
Yeah, do. You can A/B test it on all platforms, right?
Yeah,
you can do trial reels. But if I say something, and there will be plenty of it I've said that people will probably disagree with, and if they want to argue that with me, do it. Do it in the comment section, because I will come back in and I will argue with you in the comment section. And if I'm wrong, I will absolutely hold my hands up and say, thank you very much for correcting me. Most people just do not have I think it's just the wherewithal and the...
Is that a confidence or a resilience thing?
No, I think it's because we now live in this binary world of yes or no. Very Gen Z, isn't it? Social media, it's yes or no. If you don't like someone, block.
But also, Heidi, tell me what you think about this, because I said this on a podcast already, one of my favorite people in the world is actually Ricky Gervais. Yes. Now, a lot of people, they refute things or they disagree with things simply because they don't like it or it offends them. But just because you don't like it or it offends you doesn't mean it's not true. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. One of my favorite Ricky Gervais quotes is the one where he's talking about, he's on one of the late shows in America and he's talking about religion. And he says, do you believe in God? And I can't remember the name of the host. It's one of the ones, they all look the same, don't they? And he says, well, yes, God in 3 parts and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, okay, cool, but there are like 300 or 3,000 gods out there. You don't believe in 2,999 of them. I don't believe in 3,000 of them. He's like, so how is it that I'm such a bad guy? Because you only believe in one more than I do.
Yeah.
And it's your right to think critically about it. Now, of course, the presenter didn't have a go at him for being an atheist, or I don't think he's even agnostic, he's an atheist, isn't he? But if we could take that logic to everything, then that's great, because he just said these are the facts, and that's how I feel about that. Now, if somebody were to come around and say, well, here is irrefutable proof of X, if you don't accept that, that's you choosing not to accept that and being difficult.
Yeah.
US politics is a classic example of it. UK politics is following it. You look at what's happening both on the extreme left and right of the spectrum. They are just playing the polarization game. Say whatever you want and hope someone believes it. Present evidence. Nah, no, you're lying. Oh, it's made up. Oh, here's a psy-op. Oh, it's this. And it's now just come down to people just not wanting to be wrong.
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to be wrong, but it's a much better individual. A person who accepts that they're wrong and it changes an opinion based on it, even if you just weren't in full possession of the facts, is a good person.
It shows strength and it shows character.
And it shows that you are a clever person.
Yeah.
I mean, God, I respect somebody. If somebody comes up to me and has a blazing row with me about something and I go, or they then show me proof that I was wrong, God, I mean, talk about humble pie, and you have to really reel it back. And we'll all say, well, I didn't mean it like that. But then you go, okay, cool, yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah, fair play.
And do you know what? I want to be the guy that people are like, okay, like he is clever enough to understand when he's wrong. Because imagine being the guy that everyone talks about and says, he's just an idiot, and it's like banging your head against a wall.
I think like the one thing that I would draw similarities to is like, you know, if you see, so obviously we're on Fitness Street or Fighter Street, right? And
Let's not even get started on that debate. I saw it called Sport Street the other day, and I was like, no, that's a step too far even for me.
But the one thing I see similarities with what you're saying there, with the ability to admit when you're wrong, is when you see two guys like fighting, whether it's sparring or an actual fight. And I just love to see it, and I've got so much respect for often when I see like the loser actually like goes up to like the winner, and he's like, yeah, fair play.
Oh, mate. But that is everything that we should all try to embody. But I think it's also why sports people are held in such high regard, and why being a bad sportsman is considered such a taboo thing, right? If you're a bad sportsman, it's not just people don't want to play with you anymore. You will be quite ostracized from the fitness community because it's not worth anybody's time. We are all in this for self-improvement. Right? I do what I do as a coach to help others improve, but it comes from a place of self-improvement because I know how it worked for me. If you're not the kind of person that deals with that, if you can't deal with self-improvement, you certainly can't help others.
Yeah.
And therefore, I just don't want to be around you as a person because, like I said already, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. If you consider life a zero-sum game, then you've already lost it.
On that point then, Harry, I think that's really beautiful. So you're talking about a little bit there, your, like, I don't know if I would call it methodology, but kind of methodology, and your thinking behind what you do. So tell us, I mean, seeing as this podcast is powered by Primal Race, what is coming up next for you in the very near future? Talk us through like how your training's gone and what you're excited about.
Yeah, so I'm actually really glad that I can get to this because I've been meaning to film something like this anyway. But it's a hugely exciting year, and as I said, something just 2 years ago I never would have imagined this, to be competing. We've got Primal Race Phuket in 2 weeks? I mean, actually, literally 2 weeks today.
2 weeks, yeah.
Well, in fact, less than 2 weeks today because I'm doing the men's solo ultra and also the mixed pairs with Anne, and that's going to be epic. Team hybrid athlete. So happy with that. Which is going to be, absolutely brilliant. Then, obviously, we've got further developments for Primal Race during the year and throughout the year, which I'm really excited about. On top of that, I ran an ultramarathon through the Sahara last year for charity. The hardest thing I've ever done, because I have the dimensions of a square. I'm not built for ultramarathon running. I lost 17 kilos to do it. If anyone wants to lose weight, by the way, I'm an excellent coach. So this year we are putting ourselves into the Hurt Locker again. We're doing another one. We're doing it through the mountains this year, so in Albania on the Mediterranean coast. I'm really hoping that's going to be a bit nicer than the Sahara. But it's all for charity. It's for military and veterans charities. We raised £230,000 last year.
Wow,
split between 4 charities. And we're doing it all with, so 3 guys who set this up. They actually rang me up and asked if I wanted to be part of it. And I thought they were joking at first. But it's a guy that I've known for a long time called Frenchie, who's an ex-paratrooper, well, Coldstream Guard and paratrooper. Brian Wood, MC, so a military cross winner from the military, who has just phenomenal story, and please, people, do look him up. If you're on YouTube right now, go and look up Woody. And then Foxy, who I think a lot of people will know from SAS, Who Dares Wins, the TV show. So the 3 of them banded together to create this, and then asked me if I wanted to do it. And I stupidly said, yeah, I'll do the 100-kilometer race. It became a real dawning realization when we got to the Sahara, just how hard this was going to be. And so I'm doing the 100 again this year through the mountains. That's incredible, yes. And it's amazing because I know where that money's going. Yeah. And it's going to people that need it and people that were in a position like I was in and who were too afraid to ask for help. And I just hope that by doing these events and putting myself in a Hurt Locker for a couple of days, I can help somebody else get out of it for a lifetime. But please, if you are watching this, listening to this, anything, if you are the person who needs that help, go and ask for it. because I didn't, and I nearly jumped in the Thames at 5 in the morning. And you just need to remember that at the end of the day, your mum, dad, brother, sister, wife, husband is the person that has to go and go, yeah, that's them.
Yeah.
And to me, it will make it, oh, that's really done it, hasn't it? Because that's what stopped me in the end.
Yeah.
And I think just doing all of these events, I think probably showcases who I am as an athlete and as a person. It's take on these absolutely like nuts events, challenges, climb a mountain, do a fitness race, run an ultra marathon, whatever else comes my way, because they're guaranteed someone will ask me to do something stupid later in the year and I'll say yes.
Yeah.
I just love that I can keep my body and my mind always in a place where I'm willing and able to attack these things. And to come out at the other end of it, maybe with a little bit of time afterwards, smiling, laughing, making a video about it, and then signing up for the next one.
We can't wait to see the videos, mate. And guys, we will obviously include all those links that Harry mentioned there. So if anyone is looking to talk to someone or for that little bit of support, which is so important that you go and seek it out, all the links are in the caption, in the description. You can find them. And Harry, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I'm sure we'll have a part 2 of this episode because we could probably continue talking late into the evening. But thank you so much to our sponsor again, Pure Prep, for hosting us here on Fitness Street. Thank you so much to Buffalo Whey Protein. And thank you again to Harry for coming on and talking so eloquently about your experiences and for giving us an insight into the life of an influencer.
Please don't call me that. No, thanks, mate. I've appreciated it so much.
Thank you so much.
It's great.